Hey guys, we're going to talk about my new foliage brush stamp set for Procreate, and I'm going to show you how you can take these basic stamps but give them their own personality and all the in and outs, how to make them your own. Okay, first we're going to talk about how we can get these into your Procreate. So from Etsy, you want to make sure that you are downloading all of your files via Safari or your internet browser. The Etsy app does not support downloads. So this is the way I recommend. Your foliage brush set is going to come in a Procreate file so they can all import at once, which is super awesome. I recommend saving it from Etsy and save it to the files on your iPad, either the files or your iCloud. And what you're going to do, usually you'll just be able to tap this and it will open in Procreate, or you can choose this and put quick look, open in Procreate over here, but usually if you just tap it, it will open. So we're gonna go ahead and import that. So now I have two, but it will import into this library and you will see they will all be here ready for you to use them however you choose. Okay, so now the whole point of this video, I wanna show you how you can take these foliage brushes or stamps, they're called stamps technically, and how you can still add them and make them your own personality to your pieces. Now, first things first, I always get asked the commercial use of these. Like, are you able to buy this pack of foliage stamps, make your own piece, use them in it, and resell? And the answer is yes. You do not need a commercial license to do so. I, of course, just ask that it's used in your own style, and as long as you're not reselling these files as is, or say like you just stamp this on there and sell this by itself as a print. I hope that makes sense. Obviously, it has to be within use of you using it within your own style, but other than that, you are able to use these for commercial use, of course. So first things first, I'm going to talk about how you can take these and manipulate them in a way where you can add a lot of character to these, even though they are just stamps. So one thing I do want to show you with the new update with Procreate, for some reason, if you do use a horizontal canvas, when you press these, it's going to make them horizontal. You can still move them around when you're on separate layers. Make sure you are using separate layers, which we will talk about, but you can move them around, so that does not really matter. But just for the sake of this video, we're going to work with it on landscape. So first things first, I'm going to show you some things you can do to spruce these up and add some fun textures, play around with them, and make them your own. So I'm going to grab oak real quick. This is one of my favorites from this collection. I love the look of this because I did use my chicken scratch brush. Everything I mentioned, I'm going to link in the description. I'm going to try to remember. I'm using the Flourish palette, which does release tomorrow as well. If you're watching this after February 19th, then it's already released. So, and I'll leave a link to my Etsy below. So we're gonna grab oak real quick, and I'm just gonna make it a little bigger. You can play with the size before, but I love it because you can go ahead and play with them and make them how big you want. So say we love oak, but we wanna add some texture or just make it have more character. So what we're gonna do over to our layers, we're going to make a new layer, and I'm gonna turn on clipping mask. You could technically just go in here and use Alpha Lock, but just be aware when you're using Alpha Lock, if I were to draw on top of this, it's harder to backtrace. So I always like to use clipping mask for these kinds of things, just so I can play around with it, maybe try a few different styles and see which one I like at the end. So when we do go to clipping mask, you're gonna make sure you're on that layer that has that clipping mask on. Now I'm gonna go and pick a fun brush just to play around with. I'm going to grab Marigold, which is in my Watercolor Brush collection. And I'm just going to color drop this and bring the shade up a little bit. And now what you're gonna see here is when I start to paint on it, it will paint on the foliage itself, but it won't leave it since we have that clipping mask on. I'm just gonna go in and add some fun shades to these leaves. So we're just gonna add those. Just so that right there, you could leave it like that, and that adds some really fun dimension to it. So now we're gonna go back to my artistic brush set where chicken scratch is, which is what I drew these with. I'm going to go darker with this. And I'm gonna take chicken scratch and I'm just going to ever so slightly add some texture to the darker sides. You could also make this really big and just like lightly brush it. If we wanted to go down here and like add some texture to these. And so when I zoom in, this one's not done. So when I zoom in, you'll start to see the added texture it gives to the look of this stamp. And so now say you love it and you're ready to save it, you just merge these two together and there you have the foliage to add to your floral pieces, your prints, your piece of art, but you've really played around with it and played with the colors. Now we're gonna do something really funky. We're gonna go back to the foliage set and I'm going to grab, let's grab Beckham. I'm gonna go grab another palette that is also releasing tomorrow, Daisy. I know this is not the traditional way to spell Daisy, but I love how it looked on the canvas when I made the cover photo for this. So we're gonna grab a fun color from here. I'm gonna do this really pretty mustard yellow and I'm gonna bring up the size like so, and we're gonna leave it like that. We're gonna go back up to the clipping mask, make a new layer. And here what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna go down a little bit darker. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to go to my new brush, Ruthie. That is also releasing tomorrow if you're watching on Friday. And we're going to go in, and I like this brush Beckham because it already has the little lines in it, but we're just gonna add a little bit more. I'm gonna make this a little bit brighter. And I'm just going to go in and add some fun lines. And see, it's not leaving, since we have that clipping mask on, it's not gonna draw outside of that. So this is just me adding some of those lines in there. And adding some shading and dimension, like so. So we're gonna add that there really quick. Now for some final, I'm gonna bring up a light color and let's just see what we want to add. Let's grab Hermione. We're gonna do that. I'm gonna bring opacity down a little bit so it's not adding as much. So we're gonna bring that down. I actually want it a little brighter and I'm just gonna add some highlights in between these lines. Like so. We're just gonna add those highlights and just see what it does. So there you can see there's a another way you can play around with these. So now for the finale of this video, I'm going to draw a little bouquet. I'm going to show you how you can add the stamps and really manipulate them, move them around, and kind of make them work for how you need them. So this is going to go really quick, but I'm going to draw a little bouquet here, and I'll come back when the foliage is ready to be added. Okay, so once I have the bouquet, I do have these all on one layer, just because I'm just doing this for the sake of the video, but usually I would have the different elements on separate layers. But now we want to add the foliage stamps. You can like do the editing to the foliage stamps if you're doing that, or you could do it after. I'm going to go ahead and turn these layers on so I can go ahead and add the ones that we already played around with. And this is the fun part where you can take these, flip them around. If you turn freeform off, you can really play around with how you like them if you want to make, move them a little bit. So I'm going to do it right here. And here's another thing you can do. This is when you're getting really into like manipulation, but you could take the distort and really like move around there. You can take the warp tool and it's like, say you just want to curve aside. It can get really weird really quick, so just make sure you're aware of that. But you can really play around with these stamps and make them fit where you want. We're going to turn this one on now. We're going to add this. Let's add it over here to give it some color. I'm going to move that right there. Put And say we just want to add a few more. So I'm going to make a separate layer. I'm going to go back up to the foliage stamps. And we're just going to grab some. I'm going to do a darker green. And grab a Ruth there. And you can do the same things we talked about where you can play around with the texture, making them more shaded or whatever, but just for this part, I'm going to show you just adding them. But you're able to stamp these on super easy and then just move them where you want. Make sure you're using separate layers just to make it easier on you. I can show you really quick. I just said that while I put it on this. No, there's not on the same layer. I lied. But say that these two are on the same layer and I accidentally put it on the same layer. You're just going to take the selection tool, draw a circle around whichever one you're using, take 3 fingers, cut and paste, and you're going to be on a separate layer. So we're going to do that there. And then you'll just be able to take these foliage brushes and add them wherever you see fit. And you can always go back when they're on separate layers. That's the beauty of having them on separate layers. And say you want to, I just did it again. Say you want to manipulate them after, you can still do that. So you can go ahead and add them to your canvas and then say, okay, I want to add some shading to this one. I'm going to go in and put a clipping mask on, and I'm just going to add a good texture all over it. So I'm going to go back to the artistic chicken scratch. I'm going to turn it up all the way, and I'm going to just make it a little lighter. I'm going to turn the opacity down, and I'm just going to add some rough texture to it. You can even tap it to give it some more. I'm going to go down to this darker, just tap on it. Give it kind of a distressed look. There are really unlimited opportunities with these stamps to play around with and make them your own. The brushes I did use for the floral bouquet is Ruthie, and it's my new favorite brush for florals. But like I said, you can work with even the brushes that you have in that come with Procreate. You can totally do just as many things with them. But I'm going to link below some of the things that I used in this video from my shop. But yeah, I hope you enjoyed this. I hope this was helpful. Make sure you check out my shop. If you are shopping right now, and it is the weekend of February 19th, the whole shop is 20% off. So make sure you get that deal. But other than that, thank you for hanging around. Let me know in the comments if there are any other tutorials or anything you want to see up close. But I appreciate you guys, even though I just took a long YouTube hiatus. But yeah, can't wait to chat again.